introduce yourself to that extent of talking about the work experience, the employment record that we have worked all along. I want to ask you about, do you have any honors or awards having worked that length of time?
I would say so. I think it's been recognition at the company level and being awarded a reward to travel to the Netherlands for training, 2 weeks of training in Netherlands. Usually that is a recognition for the appraisals of what I did as in the breeding when I was doing the breeding work at Coopers. So they gave me an opportunity to train in Holland for 2 weeks. I was also given an opportunity to train in a program called Cow Signals, which was done in Egerton University. A very prestigious program that you are trained so that you train others. I think those are the two which I can pick out, other than self-satisfaction that whatever we've achieved, I think that is very critical to me.
At what specific times have you been within those periods? At what time of your working experience were you recognized in those honors and awards? Specific dates, or probably specific years?
I can't recall specifically. I don't have the specific dates when I traveled to Holland. I can't recall them specifically, but I know they are. I think given a chance, I can check my records and avail that.
Thank you. Are you registered in the professional associations?
Yes, I'm registered with the Kenya Veterinary Board, registration number 1411.
Okay. At what year? Which year specifically you registered as a professional in the association?
That is 1995, because that is when we started the veterinary practice. I graduated in 1993. Then there is 1 year of internship, and then the following year I was registered as a veterinary surgeon.
Thank you. Do you have any other membership?
No.
Yes, in terms of probably profession, business, scholarly, civic, charitable?
I'm a member of Livestock Genetics Society of East Africa. Livestock Genetics Society of East Africa. This was courtesy of my being the lead in the company in procuring animal genetics from the countries I've mentioned.
Thank you. On public office, political activities and affiliations, list chronologically any public office you have held or currently holding, including the terms of service and whether such positions were elected or appointed.
Maybe say that again. Did you say political or?
Public office, political activities or affiliations. So I was asking a list chronologically any public office you have held or currently holding, including the terms of service, whether such positions were elected or appointed.
I think the office I've held and I'm holding currently is I don't know if that is the relevant one, being the chairman of a board of management of a school, that is Kapsinendet High School in Bureti. This is an appointment by the Ministry of Education, which I've held for now 4 years. Other than that, I don't have any other elective position.
So it was appointed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember membership and office held in and services rendered, whether compensated or not, to any political party or election committee, if you have held a position in a political party?
I have not held a position
or participated in campaigns?
other than being a member. Maybe we've been silent campaigners, advisors, but not specifically having any role.
Have you ever been dismissed or otherwise removed from office for a contravention of the provisions of Article 75 of the Constitution?
No.
Have you ever been adversely associated with practices that deficit bias, favoritism, or nepotism in the discharge of public duties?
Not yet.
You have talked about pro bono charity work or donations to charity. Describe what you have done by any of pro bono or charity work, listing specific instances, the amount contributed, and the amount of time devoted to each.
Thank you. I'm also a dairy farmer, and I started inviting my neighbors and farmers from across to come and train in my farm. So I offer, especially during the Corona period, when people wanted to do farming, I opened up my farm to invite them for training. We were doing training once a week. And I managed to train, I think, about 100 of the neighborhood, other than farmers from other parts of this county, and probably the neighboring county. I may not have the specific number of hours, but it was from 10 a.m. up to about 5 p.m. once a week. And we were working from home, so I was available to offer this service. I visit farmers on invitation. I call it volunteer work because I don't ask for payment for that. I'm happy when someone else succeeds. I'm also called and invited to motivation speaking in schools. I participate in church. I've been a member of a gospel evangelistic team where we bring the gospel to our people. I may not have the specific number of hours, but that is what I offer as a service to our community. Thank you, sir.
Have you any objection to making of inquiries with your present employer, referees, in the course of consideration of your nomination? If yes, explain.
No objection.
Thank you. List three persons who are not your relatives who are familiar with your character, qualification, and work.
I have Dr. Yegon of Kabianga University. I have Jos Krimas was one farmer in Eldoret whom I worked with very well, and I put him as one of my referees. Mr. Philip Maritim worked in Moi University, Eldoret. He's also one of my referees.
On your education background, you are talking about first degree being veterinary medicine. You have talked about management, business management. Do you still remember, can you still remember or indicate the dates of years of attendance, the academic hours obtained, whether a degree was awarded, and dates on which such a degree was awarded?
University of Nairobi, Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine, 1988 to end of 1992. Our graduation was early 1993. Of course, it was full time, so whenever the semester was on, it was running for 3 months. but that was 4 years. The Master of Business Administration was an executive program running in 2007, 2008. The executive program was mainly running like 2 days a week, but mostly you spend a lot of time doing the work yourself.
Thank you. Do you have a list of titles, publishers, and dates of books, articles, reports, letters to editor, editorial pieces, or published materials you have authored or edited?
None. I've not done any at the moment.
Thank you. Can you supply 4 copies of any reports, memorandum, policy statements you prepared or contributed in the preparation of any PAR association, committee, conference, or organization of which you are a member?
I have PowerPoint presentations which I usually make for continuous professional development. Whenever I'm conducting CPD trainings, I usually make my presentations. So PowerPoint presentations can be availed.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bett, for the effort you have made to this far. I've got a question here regarding the decision making in case of any outbreak. How will you handle such a situation in a certain area? Let's say something like an outbreak of an anthrax, or something like relating to, that is your work experience.
Thank you, Chair. Outbreaks are like emergencies. We talk about a disease outbreak, are mostly, we call them notifiable diseases. So number one is to notify the higher authority. So in this case, notify my immediate supervisor that there's an outbreak of this disease. Number two is my presence at the site of where the outbreak is, or deploying my team. Number three is what we call an announcement of a quarantine, where we stop movement of animals into or out of the place where there is an outbreak. Immediately we take samples of tissues from animals. Luckily we have regional veterinary laboratories here, so that is the nearest we take samples. The other thing then would be to conduct what we call a ring vaccination. We vaccinate the animals around the site of the problem. Partly, we also do training of the outbreak. Mainly that is, so it will also involve the resources requiring availing the vaccines. So this will be multifaceted in terms of, from the department, then are we resourced, or do we need to make a request for funding? Thank you.
Welcome. Since we have got a big number, I will give other panelists to maybe ask a question. Welcome. Welcome, Honorable Dominic.
Mr. Bett, thank you, and congratulations for being nominated.
Thank you.
I'm interested about the AI services.
Yes.
And number 2, about the feeds. Thank you.
Okay. I'm also very interested in the same AI because I said I've been very keen about breeding of animals. My issue and my challenge and my dream is that as a county we generate our own livestock genetics, our own resources of the breeds. As of today, we have capital flight. We send money to other counties to go and buy cows. So I agree with you, it's an issue we need to address. And from my experience, we will avail the best livestock genetics so that we breed our cows to produce good heifers. Today, the technology gives us a chance to use sexed semen to breed our cows. Then we get daughters from the cows. And with good calf management, in 2 years, you're able to get cows producing. 2.5 years, you have our cows from the daughters. So that means if we start in January 2023, 2025, 2026, we're able to reduce the amount of capital we send to other counties. This is possible, my thinking, is through cooperative societies. I'm persuaded that if we make the cooperative society our center of activity, have an inseminator based in every cooperative society. We supply liquid nitrogen and semen to the cooperative society. We subsidize the cost of semen, especially the sexed semen. So we'll work hard to avail the semen at the cooperative society. Each cooperative society can engage an inseminator or multiple inseminators. This way, number one, we are able to inseminate our cows and spend our resources at our county. Number two is extension work. We want to train our farmer to manage the calf. Because to inseminate using good semen is one, but how do we manage the calf which has been born to become a cow in the next 2 years? So we'll invest in training of our farmers on how to manage a calf until it becomes a cow. That goes with feeds. The challenge today we face is the cost of feeds. And the cost has never come down, and we don't see it coming down very soon. Our investment in growing our own feeds, if we can give value to the farmer to plant maize for us, then we can use the same maize to grow, to process our feeds. Every cooperative society will be supported to have a feed mill. We take advantage of the economies of scale so that the import, even if we are importing from outside the country, the raw materials for making feeds, we will know the quality of the feed we are making, but also because of the large volumes we are importing, we can bring down the cost per kilo of the feed. So again, to the cooperative society, we make the feeds there, a feed mixer for every cooperative society, then we bring down the cost of feeding. That way, we can manage the good breed, feed it well, then in the next 2-3 years, we have our cows producing from our own. This way, if we have then a pool of farmers who are able to generate a lot of heifers, and then we don't have to go and buy outside the county. Thank you.
Okay. Daktari, congratulations for your nomination.
Thank you.
Maybe what are the most important resources to consider in the cooperative management?
Cooperative management, human resource is key. The catchment area, human resource means at the cooperative level and our staff. A cooperative officer who can access every cooperative society. The human resource at the cooperative is the one which is skilled or trained. So there's a management, there's a board of directors, there's the executive management, and then there are the other employees. Are they resourced in terms of skills, knowledge? The cooperative society needs to be modern. ICT is the way to go. So do they have the infrastructure? So membership is the other one. So membership, the human resource, the catchment area, and the support from our department. Very critical then is our staff resource to offer that support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My question is based on cooperatives, and I want to ask you, what strategies do you have to revive the dormant cooperative that we have in Kericho County? And secondly, what plans do you have to ensure that all farmers do diversification and use the small lands that they have in Kericho to promote their economy and farming?
Thank you. I said I come from Cheplanget, and we have our cooperative society called Cheplanget Cooperative Society. It's been rising and falling, rising and falling. So I understand the pain of a dormant cooperative society. It becomes dormant with the resources of the farmers. And I know the farmer who brings 3 liters of milk to the cooperative. Number one is to identify what are the issues, what is the problem? Why do we get to that dormant state? So first of all, we need to deal with the problem, to identify what is the issue, what is the problem. Once we have identified the problems, then we start looking at how do we solve. A lot of time it is about leadership and leadership support, because mostly you will find the management of a cooperative society either illiterate or people who are part-time. A lot of time we see it as part-time work, but yet I think going forward we need to engage people who are full-time as management of a cooperative society. So, and the resources keep growing, and we don't have the management in place to support the growth. So what we do then, or what I'll do, is identify the problems, and a lot of time is bringing people together to discuss. Here we are, we want to support you, we want to revive. Where mostly transparency and accountability issues is where our problem is. So people slowly go away out of the society. So it's about identify the problem, mobilize people to come back, sensitize people that there's a new management in place, allow members to do their fresh elections, and then put a new team in place. And then I'll monitor and continuously ensure that the support is availed to manage them through the process, the training, the skills, until the society is up and running again. Thank you. Number 2 was diversification. dairy farmers focus on milk production. As I was saying earlier, I would then want to encourage the same dairy farmer that you can actually sell heifers. So other than the milk, let's produce heifers which we can sell. And this is done through provision of sexed semen to our front runners, the innovators, the farmers who are already in place. Number 3 is dual purpose breeds. There are parts of this county where it's a bit dry. We can do crossbreeding so that we have the Saiwan cow. From the zebu, we develop a Saiwan cow, which then can produce milk, but also produce meat. Number 3 is our mechanization services. People can grow maize, but we need to support them to produce silage. People will grow hay. We need to provide the baling services so that they can have hay for sale. So I look at this, it's possible because already there are machinery, so we need to enhance the number of machinery and at least avail them as soon as. So when people see there is support, then people will farm. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. Daktari, welcome.
Thank you.
Daktari, apart from dairy farming, we have also dairy courts in our county. What are your plans, if approved by this committee, to teach court farmers to improve their productions and market in terms of production of milk and market? Okay, number 2, in the past, during Kanu regime, some of us were not there, but I was there. We had some extension officers going around during planting season, teaching farmers. But nowadays, we see none. What measures will you put in place to ensure these officers visit our farmers, if approved? Lastly, in our areas, we have cattle trips, which are now dormant. What is your take on this, if approved? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chairman. Chairman, yes. Maybe together with that, so that the nominee puts down so that he answers them all.
I think that one will be in order. So are you comfortable we ask you a lot of questions, then you will answer at once?
That's fine.
So, Mheshimiwa Pereira, karibu.
Yeah, thank you, the Chair. First, I want to congratulate you, Daktari. I have a question. Suppose I want to get the best breed for milk. Which method can I use? Or if I need a breed which produce a lot of milk?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
How can I select? How can selection be made?
Okay.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Another question?
Thank you. Welcome, Michael. My name is Kiprotich Rogony. I might not have introduced myself because I was away when maybe the rest of my colleagues did. The MCA, Sigo Wetward. I only have 2 questions. One, now that you're coming to a docket under agriculture, are you in position to tell this committee the state of all the abattoirs? You may not know, but at least the few that you know. Because one, where I come from, we have a private investor in Sondu who runs an abattoir, and I don't know whether the county government of Kericho is getting much out of it, the needed revenues. And the reason is, the county abattoir that was in Sondu, we had to close because it was in a deplorable state. That again, it has invited me as the area MCA to even tour some abattoirs. Most of those I've gone to are very badly managed. Now that you're coming in, you need to tell this committee how you intend to revive those apertures. Number two, Kericho County is one county that has a potential to produce milk. But you know, you coming from Bureti, we are getting milk from Bomet. You can imagine Bomet is even taking milk to as far as Kisumu, just bypassing us. Do you have, in your docket, can you tell this committee the strategies that you have to ensure milk productivity goes up in Kericho? And this is in line with what even the governor says. We cannot have a milk processing plant in Kericho if we cannot produce milk ourselves. Lastly, and this is a question to you. My colleague talked about cooperatives, which is now squarely under you. You are the accounting officer in that docket. We have serious business engagements in the agriculture sector. Coffee, we have milk, and I think there are some farmers now coming up with cooperative society in banana industry. Michael, yes, you tell this committee what you intend to do to ensure that there is a total turnaround in the cooperative societies around Kericho. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Michael, and congratulations
for
your nomination. This is my question. Should the committee approve you as the chief or as the office of county chief officer in charge of livestock and cooperatives, what is the new thing that you will bring to the people of Kericho County?
I think, Dr. I can give you an opportunity to answer those questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. About the dairy goods, it's a fairly new entrant, and but also a low-hanging fruit in terms of you can easily make money. I think the work here will be sensitization of the farmers that we can do dairy goods rearing, and the assurance of a market. I think people are still hazy, not clear about is there a market. So the work to be done here is sensitization of the farmers, and association of the farmers who are already doing dairy, and we do field days, demonstration at their farms. So let's have, my thinking is we'll have a congregation of the existing dairy goods farmers, and these are people we can take for benchmarking in other farms. I know farms in Nyeri. I've been to Nyeri, I've been to other parts of this country where the dairy goods farming is vibrant. We know there's a market in Kisumu, there's a market here, especially the people who are hospitalized with conditions like, which have immunity challenges. They rely on dairy goat milk. So there is a market, it's about sensitizing, and this we will do, and also getting a market where they can buy the breeding stock. So this is doable, and I promise this one thing we will do, we'll engage in. Extension officers, you said, are no longer visible on the ground. This is true. I also appreciate the same. I said as a farmer, I also see, we don't see the officers on the ground. I've done a bit of research, and this is something which we can turn around. With the necessary budgetary support, we need to have an extension officer per ward, at least one, who is facilitated to move. So we can avail a motorbike per officer. Number two is accountability. While we facilitate them, I'm a believer in performance appraisal. So I'll be appraising my officers on what are they doing on the ground through the sub-county office and through my office. This is possible to facilitate people to do their work. Each extension officer can do a lot if well facilitated, and this is possible, and we are going to do this. Number three was about cattle dips. My thinking is not every part of this county qualifies to have a cattle dip at the moment. There are areas where the number of animals is large, so this is okay to have cattle dips. Part of Ainamoi, Belgut, and Bureti are largely zero grazing. My thinking is we will go the direction of vaccinating animals against East Coast fever in these areas. And then the areas of Kipkelian, Soin, Sigawet, we make sure the cattle dips are functional. The same officer, the extension officer, becomes a supervisor of that cattle dip. So he is accountable for the performance of the cattle dip. We will give subsidy, we'll subsidize, we'll give product, we'll give the acaricide to the dip. But that dip needs to manage that acaricide as a revolving fund. I've had experiences where I said I've worked for a pharmaceutical company. We supply the acaricide. After 6 months, there is no money. They're coming for Deni, Kopesha, Sisi, Tawi, Meisha. They can't account for the funds. So with a minimal charge of about 20 shillings per head, the dip is able to run and sustain itself. So I think initially we will then look at which parts do we do vaccinations. So we'll do our own evaluation on the data of the cattle dips which we want to revive, and then we run the program, because the companies will support us by doing sampling. They sample every month. They take a sample and tell you the dip is correct, go ahead, or you need to get closer in managing supporting the dip management. About the best milk breeds, you asked about how do we source or select. The livestock production officer and the veterinary officer are trained as animal judges. You are a cow, you are a judge. So when you present me with a cow, I can tell you this cow is good, on this quality this one is good. So what we will say is work with the veterinary officer to help you in sourcing good breeds. I'm one active practitioner in animal selection. As we progress, my thinking is we will have a livestock show in every sub-county. And this is where we train farmers on how do you select a cow. Are these good cows? And God willing, this should culminate in a dairy show for Kericho County. Those are part of the dreams I have, that we revive our agricultural ASK show, and part of it, the big one for us, will be having a dairy show. Number 3, number 4, number 5, abattoirs. The slaughter slabs or the slaughter houses, the town here, we need to have a proper and a best case slaughter slab. This needs public participation. This needs to change from our current location. And we need to have a discussion, a serious conversation about that. And this should really happen immediately. The one in Soin, Sondu, I'm not very privy to what has happened, but again, we will come and we discuss and see how do we revive, because one source of our revenue is the abattoirs, what we charge at slaughter. So that is the revenue leakage that we should be getting coming to our county. So I agree with you, we'll need to work on that so that we put our abattoirs in place and have them managed well, that they become a revenue source. Milk production, I agree with you, we are not doing very well in terms of milk production. I've elaborated a bit about the short term is teaching the farmer about nutrition. That is the immediate term, and it's a low-hanging fruit. Once we facilitate our officers to go out, I'm also a trainer myself. I'll be able to train our officers on how do you manage a cow. We can easily get milk production from our existing genetics. And then number two, I've talked about breeding. So we need to improve, upgrade our cows so that we get daughters. I said in the next 2 years, then we should have doubled our milk production, because the daughters from this breeding will be our next cows in the next 2.5 years. They should be producing. Indeed, we have a market, and the farmer wants to see the milk and its value. The cooperative society, we need to install cooling plants. Again, I said at least even one per every ward, there is a cooling plant running. Once we bulk the milk, that is already value addition, because then we can negotiate for a better price. And I know we are capable. So if we do milk production by bulking our milk, the cost will go up. Then more farmers come in to do the dairy farming. And then I said we need to work on the feeds. If we work on the feeds production, help farmers to make their own silage to produce hay. This will help us to produce more milk. My dream is that we need to see the milk branded Kericho milk on our shelves, and not Mount Kenya milk, fresher, dominating our market. Yet we are a free market, yes, but the dominant should be the milk brand from Kericho. Cooperatives, the turnaround is about facilitating our officer to train the cooperative society, to audit the cooperative society. So we'll train the farmers, the cooperative societies, on best practices, accountability, transparency. But also, our officer will be resourced. So the number of officers today, I think we need an extra 10 officers, cooperative officers, to be able to reach out to our cooperative societies, especially now that we are revamping coffee and milk. The last question was, what is new? I think what the new thing I'm bringing is, or may not sound very new, is I said I'm a firm believer in performance appraisal. I am a believer in facilitating my team to do their work. So we'll focus on enabling our teams to do their work. That is my main focus. My other new thing is partnership with the private sector. Partnership with other companies. As a county, mine is to mobilize farmers. The private companies will come in to sponsor our programs. We will work with the media, we will work with other pharmaceutical companies, we will work with other stakeholders to always make sure there is work at the farms. There are demonstration plots, there are field days, and there are engagements with the farmers and the professionals. Thank you.
Another set of questions.
Dr. Bett.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you
for coming this far. Do you have any deferred income or future benefits that you anticipate to get in future?
I have not understood your question.
Maybe you have provided some services somewhere, and you are expecting some income from the same. Could you, if that is so, could you please tell this committee, not this panelist?
There is none I'm expecting.
Yes. Another one. If in any case you are given the chance to serve as the chief officer in the Department of Livestock, do you have any intention to have other commitments outside your office?
My number one commitment is to serve the people of Kericho County as a chief officer, livestock and cooperatives management. Any other commitment is on my weekends when or after work. Other than that, I'll fully dedicate my working hours, which include extra hours, because this work is based in the field, and it's not 8 to 5. It's a work which extends beyond the regular working hours, and I'll be available to do this.
Thank you, Daktari. Another one. Could you please tell this panelist some of your sources of income? And on the same note, your net worth.
Thank you. I've said I'm a dairy farmer, so I sell milk. That is one source of income. I also have a veterinary shop. That becomes part of my income. In the past, I've been helping farmers to source for genetic breeding animals. And I think with this commitment, that will not be possible unless when we are doing it for our team in the county. So it will no longer be a revenue stream for me. I own a farm where I do the dairy farming, about 9 acres, so that's about 9 million. Maybe if you include the properties therein, about 20 million, 30. Another property in Eldoret, maybe another 20 million, so it comes to about 50 million.
Thank you, Daktari. Another question. If you are given this chance to be the chief officer in the said department,
yes,
how will you handle potential conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest, will require conflict resolution. I think number one is to identify what is the identifying what is the source of the conflict. After identifying the source, then we identify which solution can really work for this conflict. Because at the end of the day, the idea is to resolve conflict amicably. So number one is we'll try to negotiate out of this conflict. We'll do negotiations with the parties involved. Number two is if negotiation fails, then we may look for a mediator, somebody who can help us to bring the parties together. We really don't desire that it ends up in court or requiring the intervention of the judiciary. So we'll work at identifying what is the problem, why is there a conflict, can it be resolved by negotiation, by having an arbitrator, or it ends up in court, but we will really desire that we find a negotiation out of a conflict.
I rejoined on that.
Yes.
At times, recruitments can be done in your department. And maybe one of the applicants is a relative or even your son. How will you handle the same as far as conflict of interest is concerned?
Thank you. It's bound to arise that, a relative will be an applicant. Number one is to declare that out of this list, I have a relative. So, for fairness, I'll not be part of the panel. So you'll allow the panel to do their due diligence, to do their job, due process. If it happens that one of my relations has won, let it be through a fair process.
Thank you. The last one. Understaffing in the department is acute. How will you address the same, bearing in mind that our wage bill as a county is high?
Number one is to identify the gaps. Identifying the gaps, at least the minimum is replace the person who has retired or who has left service. That will not be an additional head count, it will not be an additional bill. So what we need to address, number one, is replace the people who have left service for whatever reason. That means we are still within the budget. We are not exceeding our wage bill. Number two is the use of interns or people who have left college. They want attachment, and mostly the bill is not as huge as if you are doing a full-time employment. So they'll usually come for 1 year on attachment. Instead of covering one cooperative society, you can oversee 3. So if the person is mobile, you may find this person is covering more territory with the same bill. So it's about performance appraisal. We need to appraise the performance of every person and reward the same personnel who are doing well. When we do that, it will be 1 + 1 is 3, not 2. So we synergize, we make use of the available resources. Our people need training. let's train them, let's encourage them, and then we'll have a better production. Thank you.
Okay, through the chair, let me say congratulations, Dr. Bett, for your nomination.
Thank you.
I am charged in a court of law in the last 3 years. If so, specify the nature of the charge, where the matter is ongoing, the present status of the matter, or where the matter is concluded, the judgment of the court, or otherwise, how the case was concluded. The second question is, if you have ever been adversely mentioned in an investigatory report of Parliament or County Assembly or any other commission of inquiry.
I don't have any court case. I've not had any in the last investigation. Thank you.
Mr. Bett.
Yes, sir.
Let me come forward so that you can see me. And maybe to introduce myself. I came late. I'm Richard Langat, MCA Kedawage Mugulwad. And sitting behind you, Mr. Bett, doesn't mean we are on a minority side, but we couldn't get a chance to be on the podium. So I have two questions, Dr. Now, I've heard of this type of Dopa sheep. And from what I have learned about this Dopa sheep, it mostly coming from the other side of our county, which mainly within North Rift. What do you tend to do to have this important and kind of Dopa sheep in our county? Secondly, it's about straying animals in our towns. What measures will you take to see that there is no straying animals in towns like cattle, sheep, goats, or even dogs? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Through the chair, Dr. Bett, you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Apart from dairy farming, we practice in Kericho County, Dr. Bett. We have other livestock activities like the apiculture, the fish farming, the poultry farming, sheep and goats farming. What is your take on those other farming activities? Number two, we have a lot of quacks, Dr. Bett, masquerading as animal fats in our county. What will you do to eliminate such quacks? Number three, how do you rate the extension services in our county? What is your rating concerning the extension services in Kericho County? Thank you so much.
Asante. Number one was about the Dopa sheep. Dopa sheep has got very good meat. Mostly some people will fear eating sheep meat, mutton, because of the smell. The Dopa has got very good meat. They thrive very well in warm to moderate conditions. Again, our focus will be buying breeding rams for the farmers who are already engaged in Dopa sheep farming. So it's identifying these groups and working with them to multiply the number of Dopa sheep and getting good breeding rams from Nakuru, from Baringo, and Wasingishu. I know farms which have good breeding stock for for DOPA. If we go far, you may go up to Meru. There are parts also who are doing DOPA sheep farming. Number 2 is the stray animals in towns. I think I saw some yesterday, or was it the other day? They are roaming here in town, and I was told, don't touch them, they belong to some people. So we'll want to know those people, and then we discuss with them that they are posing a security threat. It's a health issue. Animals are illegally in town. They are not part of. So enforcement, number 1 is get the animals. Public participation will come third. I think number 1 is enforcing the law, because it's already in our act, the bigger animal, the bigger act about animal movement, animal where they're located. So animals are not supposed to be by the roadsides, leave alone being in town. So it's about enforcing, but also we'll still do the training, the sensitization about where the animals are supposed to be located. About fish, poultry, bees, they are part of our diversification. So we'll still invest in training our farmers on fish, on poultry, and on bees. What the farmer wants to see is value addition. Fish is about the fingerlings and feeds. Those are the 2 challenges. I realize that people have to import fingerlings from outside this county. People have to import feed from outside this county. Chair, we can produce fingerlings locally within our county. So it's about training our staff and having farmers who are ready to do production of fingerlings and have it for sale to other farmers. We'll produce feed for fish within the county, and this is possible. Poultry has a huge market. The issue has been the cost of feeds. So again, we'll address the cost of feeds by having a model where, when we say a dairy cooperative society, it does not necessarily divorce the poultry farmer. They can still access the same feeds through the cooperative society. The bees, this is also possible through sensitization, that we have farmers who keep bees, and we need to do honey production in a proper way and do the marketing for the same honey. There is very good honey from avocado. So as avocado development is going up, we need to harness the honey production from this plant. About quacks, a quack is anybody practicing a profession which is not theirs. And they are, whenever they are found, they are arrested and charged for practicing a profession which they are not qualified and they are not licensed. Number 1 is to confirm the licenses of all our people in the county who are trained as animal practitioners. Number 2 is, unfortunately, a vacuum does not exist in nature. Someone will occupy that vacuum. So when we create a vacuum by not employing an officer, quacks will thrive where there are no officers. I know from Kapkatet, I had to fight for about 6 months to be accepted. So the quack will occupy space. So let's look at the staffing positions and facilitate our staff to cover the ground. The quacks will disappear, because at one level, the quack cannot do some things. The farmer will notice the professionalism and the lack of it in the quack. Extension services, I think I've forgotten this one. Maybe I need to be reminded. Oh yeah. The question was, how do we rate the extension services in our county? I was in Bomet and they told me Kericho is better. But as a practitioner, after many years, in practice, we are not doing very well. I think we could be in the 40s. So there is work cut out for us. And I think as the officer in charge of that docket, I'll work hard to push our work to a level where the farmer can appreciate that indeed the livestock and the veterinary services and cooperatives are vibrant once again.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, I still come back to you once again. I have a question. How do you ensure that the infected animals are not slaughtered for human consumption? Because that has been a problem in our county.
Uninspected. Did you say uninspected animals?
No, they
Infected.
animals.
Or a sickly animal. You can.
A sick cow.
Animals are not slaughtered for human consumption.
That's a big one. It's a real challenge for everyone. The veterinary fraternity and the public health, it needs a multi-sectoral approach to the slaughter slab. So awareness, and then managing looking at the integrity of our officers in meat inspection, which is partly impromptu visits. So we pay surprise visits to the slaughterhouse, and we are able to arrest the situation.
Karibu Mheshimiwa.
Through the chair, I have a question, Daktari, on the side of agriculture. Why nowadays maize is not doing well in Bureti and Bomet?
Maize. Let me answer a bit of that. As a farmer, that maize has had two challenges, and probably three. Challenge number one was what was called MLN, maize lethal necrosis. This disease destroyed maize. It is yet to be contained. I think our neighbor Bomet is mostly affected. Number two was the fertilizer. So if we are able to manage maybe to see how to subsidize the cost of fertilizer, and then we'll be back to production. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Daktari, as we are nearing to the end of this interview, on observation about your file, I see you haven't submitted a self-declaration form as per the Leadership and Integrity Act. Self-declaration form. It's missing in your file.
I'll avail the copy. I think I'll make it available. I've done it.
So thank you. I hope you will work in hand with the Secretariat.
Yes.
On time, and you will submit.
Yeah, before I leave, I'll avail it.
So before we close, what's your remark about the kind of interview that we have done, that we have